What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you in part by ButcherBox. Know what I love? Meat. I love meat. We had a barbecue for my birthday this past weekend, and boom, meat was served. I got a new smoker, one of those pellet smokers, so I am testing it with all different kinds of meat. We're doing beef. I did turkey for Thanksgiving, doing salmon. Actually, the salmon was excellent, and ButcherBox is here to take the guesswork out of finding high-quality meat and seafood that you can trust. The beef is 100% grass-fed. The chicken, free-range organic. The pork is crate-free, and the seafood is wild-caught. It's all humanely raised with no antibiotics or added hormones. And with ButcherBox, you get just what you want, delivered right to your doorstep. They've got free shipping for the continental U.S. and no surprise fees. You can choose from a variety of box plan options, from curated to customized, and change your plan whenever you want. You can enjoy a range of high-quality cuts that are hard to come by at the grocery store at an amazing value. And with exclusive member deals, you can save big on your favorite cuts. I loved the Thanksgiving turkey I made. I used the smoker, and it was so great. The turkey was so good. I got that ButcherBox turkey that they were doing for Thanksgiving, and it was excellent. Love sending ButcherBox gifts to my friends and family. And if you've ever been the kind of person who's gotten a box of meat in the mail, trust me, it is a very rewarding experience. It's convenient, it's affordable, and the taste is delicious. This holiday season is made better and tastier with ButcherBox. For a limited time, they're offering our listeners ground beef for life and $10 off your first order. So sign up today at butcherbox.com/tire. And then use code TIRE to get $10 off your first box and ground beef for the life of your membership. That's butcherbox.com/tire with code TIRE to claim this deal. We're also brought to you in part today by Athletic Greens. Love Athletic Greens. It's good for you. You got to make sure that you got your gut health taken care of with energy, optimized immune system, and vitamins. And it's Athletic Greens AG1. I drink it every day. It is delicious. Doesn't taste like some disgusting, weird, grassy greenery thing. It's got like a tropical taste. It's pretty good. Chug it down in a scoop of water, one scoop, boom, and I'm absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins and minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. I'm not really sure what an adaptogen is, but I could probably put it together. It's a gin that helps me adapt. Starts my day right. I do it before my morning coffee. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All of these things. Super important. I do it first thing in the morning, get it down nice and quick. Before I brush my teeth, before I have my coffee, it gets me going. And it helps me with that energy and digestion throughout the day. I love this stuff. It's affordable, less than $3 a day, especially when you're investing in your health. That is important, right? Right. And it's a climate neutral certified company. That's good. They've donated over 1.2 million meals to kids in the year 2020. That's good. And with every purchase, they donate to organizations helping to get nutritious food to kids in need, including No Kid Hungry here in the U.S. To make it super easy, reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. With AG1, it's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/tire. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/tire to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Also brought to you in part by HelloFresh. Love HelloFresh. You get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the store. Count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. I love HelloFresh. They've sent me so much food. Me and Hannah really, really like this stuff because I love cooking and I'm pretty good at cooking, but what I'm not at is variety. I get stuck in habits, right? There's like 10 recipes I can make without looking at a recipe book, right? I just stop at the store on the way home. I get the same things. I rotate through them, and they're good, but it's not great variety, and I love variety. That's why HelloFresh is awesome. They've got 35 recipes to choose from each week, so there's something to please everyone. You can choose from family-friendly, fit and wholesome, or even veggie. Plus, you can customize your meals by swapping proteins or sides, upgrading your proteins, or adding proteins to a veggie meal. They send you the exact right amount of ingredients. I love that. You're not wasting food. If you say you want meals for two, they send you exactly meals for two, the exact right amount of spices, the exact amount of sauces. It's awesome. You're not letting food go bad in the fridge. You're not throwing food away. You're not buying more than you need. It is great. Whether you're hosting a holiday party or just stocking up on snacks, you'll find everything you need at HelloFresh's Market. They've got quick breakfasts, charcuterie boards, desserts. It's never been easier to prep for a party or fill your pantry. And if you're traveling over the holidays, HelloFresh has plans that work with your schedule. You can change your preferences, your delivery day, your address, or pause your shipments in just a few clicks. It's all super easy. The food is fresh. It all takes 30 to 45 minutes. Easy to clean up. Minimal food waste. No food waste, really, unless you don't finish your dinner. But it's great. I really like it. So you go to HelloFresh.com/SmokingTire18 and then use code SmokingTire18 for 18 free meals plus free shipping. Right? HelloFresh.com/SmokingTire18, code SmokingTire18 for 18 free meals plus free shipping. It's all good. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit, baby. Do it. All right, on today's show, it is a crew show. Me and Zach review the Ferrari 296 GTB and talk briefly about the GR Corolla versus the Civic Type R. We talk about bills. I get depressed about my birthday. We answer your questions, including helping someone find a good car to be a cool dad, a cool car for all-season performance, and more. Plus, we have an interesting segment from a new sponsor, Salesforce, and we're discussing what the dealers think about themselves and think about you on today's episode of the Smoking Tire Podcast. All right. Hello, people. My birthday week is over.
Birthday month.
Birthday month.
Let's do birthday month.
Dude, I always struggle in between the Thanksgiving birthday week. Real tough for me. Because it's like so much bad eating and drinking. And there's always like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I had like fun. But it always seems to end in depression. You know, we went to Bill's on Sunday, and for those of you listening to these podcasts in order, it's going to be a little weird because we had Spike on before the last day at Bill's, and then that show won't air till Thursday because of how shows work, and so with Spike we share some of our Bill's memories, and then I was on Spike's show, which he recorded at Bill's on Sunday, and so but like. With the exception of this one photo, you know, a lot of people took photos of the scene at Bill's on Sunday, including photos of me. Mm-hmm. And I just sunk into a deeper and deeper depression after seeing like every single one of them. That is by far the best photo taken of me that weekend. But other people took photos like from the side or from like 3/4 angles, and I look so fat, and it makes me so depressed.
Well, I mean,
I am fat.
I don't know what, well, I was going to also say, like, I don't know
fat.
what phones they use, because iPhone, when you take a photo of cars, and the wheels are on the edges of the frame.
No, I know. Like I'm not. I could blame phones. I could blame equipment. But like I also feel fat, and my clothes are also not fitting like they're supposed to. Like the fucking donuts, which I think we talked about, the goddamn donuts. And just like drinking and I just feel shitty. I'm gonna not have any drinks for 2 weeks and try to eat super healthy for a little and just reverse that, get that trend going back. I feel like death.
Yeah, I mean, Thanksgiving's rough.
Thanksgiving sucks. I mean, it doesn't. It's nice, but like, and also, you know, like after the week of fucking donuts, we had a barbecue for my birthday at the house, and Vinny brought over like 36 cookies from some new cookie place, and it was like one of those places that was like a fucking ridiculous. Like they were like the best cookie, literally the best cookies I've ever had.
You know what Vinny is, right?
He's a problem.
Vinny shows up. He's the guy that shows up and goes, "You want to do cocaine, right?
Yeah,
Because I brought some in case you want to do it. It's because he wants to do it."
Like I said, my self-control is to not go to the bakery.
Right.
That's my self-control. I got self-control by just driving by those places and not going in. And I have self-control at the grocery store. I don't bring home unhealthy food. I don't go down the fucking Oreos aisle. But if it's already in the house,
yeah, it's hard.
The no self-control at all once it's in my kitchen.
Yeah, and holidays there's kids around, and like my cousin's kids all eat different things at different times.
Yeah.
So there's stuff out all the time of a wide variety, and there's just like cookies and sandwiches and things and things and things. And so I just walk by and grab stuff.
Yeah, and you know, like if you're having a barbecue, 20 people or whatever, you got the charcuterie board, you know, you're snacking, you're drinking wine, and like, we never used to give me munchies, but fucking alcohol, holy shit.
Well, it takes away the willpower.
I get munchies from alcohol fucking so bad. I never even got that from weed.
That's not uncommon.
And people were smoking, like my friend Marty came in, who I've referred to on the show as the shaman. He surprised me for my birthday, came in and said, and he smokes more weed than anybody that I know. And he rolls fucking 2-gram blunts for himself and smokes them in one sitting. He rolls huge blunts for himself and smokes them in one sitting 2-3 times a day just by himself. And like, I sat outside with him and watched him smoke blunts cover to cover, and somehow I didn't have the like, ooh, I'll just have some of this.
That's
but
good.
like, I mean, I guess it's good. I don't like to see it. I don't like to think of like not smoking weed as victory and smoking weed as failure. I don't like to position it that way.
But if you don't want to smoke weed, which is something you've brought up a number of times, and now you're at the point where you can be that close to it and have that access to it and not give a shit.
But I was thinner and happier smoking weed and drinking less.
Well, now you have to combine both of those things.
I've never had to quit weed to be at my thinnest and feel the best about myself.
Right, but I think the challenge now is reducing the drinking and then the behavior that comes with it. Because it's the same thing, like you beat weed, but it took a long time.
Yeah.
And with food, I mean, you know, for me, like I can relate to the aggressive snacking thing. I just have a quicker metabolism, but like it takes, if I make smart choices for 4 weeks straight, that helps a lot, but it's not until I hit like 8 or 10 weeks where it becomes muscle memory.
Yeah.
And then I can be around the charcuterie board and my brain's like, no, we ate this earlier, we're eating this later. Like, but it takes a long time to get those habits built and to really stick with them. It's fucking hard. It's the easiest drug
and it also
to access.
Fucking sucks. Like eating super healthy is like not fun.
That is true.
I fucking hate giving up things that I love. Love tasty food. It's not like a junk food thing. It's just like, you know, I don't mind a salad. I don't mind having a salad for lunch. There's good salads. There's health. I cook healthy at home, but like, I feel like you start giving up shit, and I just like, life is so fucking boring and not worth living. I mean, I'm probably not. It's probably not true, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
fair.
You
know, like, I already gave up. I've already given up these things that I love. Like, I don't want to give up more.
Well, but I think you have to look at. No, you don't have to do this, but one thing to do is go, well, what if the payoff of not eating these things is an improvement in an arena of life that is currently making you sad? Is the trade-off worth it?
Maybe, I mean, kind of, but like, especially with food, like food is a way to like also soothe that pain, or wine is a way to soothe the pain of those feelings, and then it's really a fucking cycle.
Yeah,
that's the real problem, which is why I probably need to be better about telling people. Like I had to tell Vinny to stop bringing fucking donuts to the shop. Like you cannot bring them here anymore because they'll sit there. I'll walk by them and I'll eat them. I won't go get donuts, but if it's just there, I'm gonna fucking eat that shit.
Yeah,
and like I might have to tell people when it's like when we're having a barbecue or whatever, like don't bring fucking desserts to the house. Like
there's no problem with that.
Yeah.
You will not be ostracized by your friends because of that.
I know. But goddamn, is this the week after my birthday? Every year I'm so depressed because I've eaten badly for 2 weeks because of Thanksgiving.
I think that's the benefit. There's a benefit to being Jewish and not really celebrating Christmas is the holiday season isn't 5 weeks long.
Yeah.
Because it could easily be, especially, if we had normal jobs where there's like an office party and then another office party and like it could stack up so quickly.
Yeah.
So we're just done. Hanukkah's boring. You get practical gifts and then it's New Year's and, you just move on.
Yeah. But especially like when you're still working out too. And still like gaining weight and feeling shitty, like that sucks because there was a time I could exercise my way out of that, and that time is no longer.
And at a certain point, what you eat will can beat the workout unless you're a Navy SEAL. Just the calories in and out thing is real.
Yeah, fucking blows.
Yeah,
so depressing.
I know, man. I mean, when I've been in really good shape, and then I'm like. Get drunk and eat half a pizza, and I go, that just undid the entire week of whatever, like, just because I know the math. I'm like, fuck.
Yep.
Fuckity fuck.
God damn it. Well, I ate my last Bill's corn muffin, which was the last Bill's corn muffin. I ate the very last corn muffin the Malibu kitchen will ever serve, and it was delicious.
It's such a sad situation.
I know.
I hope he opens somewhere that has lower overhead, better parking situation.
The line went around the block.
Wow.
To get food. Bill ran out of food.
I heard. Yeah, I talked to Marty the other day.
Yeah.
I landed late enough in the morning where if I'd ran up there by noon, Marty's like, everything was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would have shown up and been like, it's empty.
He ran out of food.
So
and we brought the GR Corolla, which was a big hit. We brought the new Mercedes SL in yellow, which is a strange car. And we're gonna have videos of those next week. So I don't want to give too much away on that. That yellow, that P1, that's Jay Leno. You can see his back is behind my right ear in that photo.
This is I prefer the P1 yellow. It's a deeper oranger yellow than the SL.
I mean, the SL it's a pretty nice car, but like that yellow doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah.
But the it's nice to see Jay. He's looking very good. You would not believe that he fucking lit himself on fire 3 weeks ago.
Did he give you the details on the story, or did?
I mean, it was accurately reported.
Okay.
He was working on some steam car. He was working on the fueling system. He got like sprayed with fuel that somehow ignited.
What? Oh, so it wasn't a steam blast?
No, it wasn't a steam burn.
Whoa.
It was actually fuel. It was a gasoline burn. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was very nice to see him. You see that he's doing well, and he was joking around about it.
He's not wearing denim. Did all the shirts get burned up?
I think he's kind of trying. I think he's getting a little bit away from the denim. If he's not filming, he's trying to wear some other things. And Uncle B, Bruce Meyer, was there. We share the same birthday, December 1.
Oh, nice.
He's exactly 40 years older than me.
Wow.
He's 8. He looks fucking better than me in that picture too.
He does not look better than you. He doesn't look 81, but he doesn't look better than you.
That's what it looks like to be that rich. And
you get a blood
81.
boy, and you get some. I don't know. I don't want to.
And Spike recorded some shows in the back with a rotating cast of characters. I even saw Adam Carolla there, who also saw the Lamborghini movie and said it was, and he was like he couldn't believe how bad it was.
Some of our fans spoke about how bad it was.
Yeah, I did a piece with Alana Shear for Car and Driver. We had like a recorded conversation where we basically just talked about how shitty it was that would be transcribed for a piece in Car and Driver this week. That's Byron Bauer's new Cayenne. Yeah. We saw Byron up there. He's coming on the show next week,
correct,
a week from today. And he's all of a sudden into overlanding Cayennes. And he said he went off-road in it too.
I watched his Instagram stories from when he picked the car up, and he'll talk about it on the show because it was not the smoothest journey coming home. There were some some bumpy things.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad he'll have some things to talk about.
Yeah, but it's a nice looking truck.
Yeah, and it was a good turnout in Malibu on Sunday. The cops did try to shut the lot down, and Bill convinced them at 8:20 a.m. to fucking put down the put down the steel cables and go home.
You just go out and he's like, it's the last day.
He's like, you won. You've gotten me out of here. Like, people are coming to like literally pay tribute to this business that will be gone tomorrow forever. Like, please just let us fuck it. And they did.
I'm glad they did.
Yeah. And Vinny put some exhaust tips on the back of Johnny's
Vinny and I
car.
ordered those. We were going to put them on your Mach-E originally.
Oh, that would have been
decided
funny.
against that, and then they've been
They
sitting
look.
around
They
for a while.
don't look too bad on the Rivian. They look all right.
It's quad tips that just stick on.
And I may have taken a
so
couple more souvenirs, a couple little things here and there for the shop.
Take a couple fridges.
Well, I got a cookie jar.
Cool.
I bought a cookie jar from Bill's collection of cookie jars.
Which width? Because some of his are like
I took the "we don't have a bathroom" sign, but I also may have stolen a Malibu kitchen parking only sign. So, which I think technically the landlord owns, but fuck that guy. Whatever.
I mean, wow.
And anyway, cars. We had the Ferrari 296 GTB for 4 days. Did about 400 miles in it, so it's pretty thorough.
Took 2 hours to do that distance.
Yeah, pretty thorough drive. Yeah, we did a little off-roading in it in this photo here. I mean, really, you know, Ferrari's integration of the hybrid system is really very, very good.
Yeah.
I didn't like driving it in hybrid mode at all. I know why that mode exists. It's because it can, and that's the default mode for the whatever the EPA or however you want to do it. But it's the little EV mode. You know, is great for quietly leaving the house early in the morning without bothering people, and then in performance mode, it fundamentally drives like a purely gasoline car that just has the torque fill that's pretty seamless and invisible. But when the engine sounds like a Ferrari engine sounds, being in the hybrid mode where the engine cuts in and out all the time, I mean, that just stinks. No, who wants that?
It's definitely not necessary.
Yeah,
it's there because it can be there.
Yeah, it's
Same
not.
with the P1. Like the P1's hybrid system was meant for torque fill to just make power below boost or peak boost.
Yeah.
And then they went, I wonder if we just type in a couple other ones and zeros, we can do EV for, what was it, like 8 miles or some tiny number back then.
Well, that exists, I think, for London taxes and whatever. But and if you're gonna put an EV motor there, you probably do want the thing to drive on EV only, at least like a little bit. But when you put it into performance mode, it really is a seamless power delivery. And it shifts well, and it does make really good torque in between gear changes, and at the lower end of the power band, you don't have to rev the snot out of it all the time to get good power. You should, because it's a Ferrari.
It revs to 8,500.
Yeah. And I don't care at all that it's a V6. That doesn't really. I mean, it's not like it's the naturally aspirated engine that sounds so amazing, like the 458 Special, but compared to the turbo motors, it's not that much of a difference for me.
Yeah, I'd say the character of this twin turbo V6 and like the F8's V8 feel the same.
Yeah.
They sound very, very slightly different, but barely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's this wide angle V6 that's 120 degrees, which is really, really like really wide
Fairly
and
open,
flat. Kind of an interesting design. It feels light. The brakes are great. You know, the steering is really sharp.
The new engine is 70 pounds lighter than the V8. So I mean, it saves quite a bit of weight.
Yeah. Well, but you have a battery pack.
That's true. Which I think that added 150 pounds back. But the engine's lighter.
It's 3,700 is right, isn't it? It's 3,700 pounds.
Yeah, they gave us the dry weight, but I think you're correct.
I was quoted. I think Car and Driver put it on a scale, and it was 3,700 and change. But if you just told me that, it probably feels like it drives 200 or 300 pounds lighter than that. The piece of glass that covers the engine is beautiful and looks very, very expensive. The curved shape of the rear, not buttresses, but the strakes, whatever you want to call them, that go behind the rear windshield and sort of wrap around the engine bay. Those are very pretty.
I mean, that glass looks like a stingray, like an actual fish with the curve of it. It's amazing that they were able to, that they can mold a glass like that.
Yeah.
And it can withstand the vibration and all the pressure that's happening and the temperature changes.
Yeah, and this one did not have the Fiorano pack, which means it had the magnetic ride shocks and also the nose lift, which you really do want. I use the nose lift 20 times a day. I used it all the time. It's you're gonna want it, especially if you've got a carbon front splitter.
Yep.
Otherwise, it would be tricky to drive. I wouldn't. Not only would I not want the fixed suspension, because one thing Ferrari does so well is program their magnetic shocks for a good ride. I wouldn't buy one of these for a track day car, even if I had tons and tons of money to spend. This is not the car I would want for a pure track day car. I mean, if you really were doing a pure track day car, you could get an actual race car for this much money and have a cage and have slicks, and you could buy a cup car.
Well, and then why not have an NA engine that sounds amazing? Like, if you're going to buy yourself the best track day car experience you can with $300,000 to $400,000, why would you
lug around a battery?
Why would you compromise and get the battery and everything else? Why wouldn't you go get a 458 or a 430 track car, something like that?
Yeah, no, not to say I wouldn't take one of these to a track day, but whatever the improvement is with the Fiorano pack in terms of a lap time is almost certainly not worth the trade-off in terms of a street car.
Yeah, that seems like one of those things that for people that tick all option boxes and then they want the more exclusive model. I mean that. I mean, I drove it, and the ride is worse. I mean, the ride is significantly worse.
The reason I'm laughing is because on the Road and Track Hudson Quattrocento, the event we did earlier this fall, there was a guy who was a very nice guy, very, very wealthy, and his wife, and brought an SF90. And it was brand new. He literally took delivery a day or two before coming on this event. And props, buy SF90 and immediately go on this road trip. Good for you.
Those are your braking miles.
Yeah, good for you, bro. And I said to the guy after 2 days, it had a Fiorano pack on it. I said, how is it? And he goes, when you're doing the configurator, checking the boxes for all the race car shit is a real good idea. He goes, I've now done 350 miles in it, and I wish I didn't check any of those fucking boxes. And I go, yeah.
Why did he explain why he checked them? Was he just
all the money, all the options? Why Wi-Fi? Yeah, of course, for a Fiorano pack. Fuck yeah. And there he is in the carbon bucket seats and the fixed suspension. He's scraping the fucking bottom, on all this stuff. And his wife is rolling her eyes, and he's just going, it seemed like a good idea when I was speccing that. Most people don't get to drive them before they buy them.
True.
They just hear, oh, it's the new thing, and would you like to buy one? And how do you want it? And they say, give me everything.
It's exactly. They've taken this practice from the luxury car market where you go fully loaded. I want everything. Because that usually is a nicer, more luxurious experience. But now it means in this field of car, it means race car, which is a less luxurious experience.
Yeah.
And he had no frunk, so how did he carry any of his things?
Oh, he really did some. Well, first off, the Route to Vine, the Road and Track experiences. There's a luggage truck.
Oh, okay.
So they,
got it.
They want you to be able to bring everything that you want to bring. So there is a luggage truck.
Okay.
But even despite the luggage truck, that thing, the SF90, has a comically small trunk. So it was they had a day bag too, and even that was crammed in the car. And that's a great thing about the 296 versus the SF90. You wrote SF0.
I was
the SF90 has this super, super tiny. There it is, the second row on the left.
That one
it's
shows
ridiculous.
Context.
I mean, it's because it's got all the motor and stuff up front. You really can't fit anything in there. The 296, because everything is in the back. The battery's behind the seats. It's only rear-wheel drive. There's no front motors. So the 296 has actually a much, much bigger and more usable trunk. It's still kind of an awkward shape. McLaren 720 has a better trunk still.
So the 296, the trunk width is similar, but it like dips down enough where we can put the case in that extra well. It's like it had a 2-story trunk, whereas the SF90 is just a flat and has half the depth.
Yeah, that picture that you've got there makes it look bigger than it is.
Yeah, it does.
There, pull up the one with the charge cord. I mean, with the charge cord wrapped around. That shows you how small it is. Those charge cords are not big.
Yeah, here's.
Yeah, that's the charge cord in the pack it comes with.
Right.
So, you know, this guy, because it was a brand new car, he had the charge cord in the thing in there. So he's trying to like finagle, you know, like a little duffel bag around this thing.
He's got 2 Gucci clutches and this charging cable.
Yeah, and so, you know, that is the thing. I think this. First off, you'd have to be a real connoisseur to tell the difference between a 296 and an SF90 without them being right next to each other.
Yeah.
I mean, the styling is similar, and the overall shape is similar, and you know, they're all kind of starting to look a little the same, and so you really would need to know what you're looking for, what you're looking at, with very subtle design differences. I mean, and especially if they're not right next to each other.
Yeah.
In this photo that Zacks got pulled up, you can see them literally next to each other, and there are some differences in
headlights are different. The
shape
side
of
intakes
the
are placed
intakes,
differently.
the shape of the hood, but like the overall shape of the car is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had 3 or 4 different people ask me if that was an SF90 I was driving.
Wow.
And so and it's cheap. It's way cheaper. It's like a half, you know, somewhere between a half and a third of the price of an SF90. And you get all the same real world performance.
The same interior, basically. You get the really similar speed.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can have an EV experience. You have the same. I remember when we drove SF90, we both came away impressed with the hybrid execution.
Right.
But it doesn't feel like the 296 was a step down at all.
No.
You know, they didn't make it worse to help sell SF90. They made it just as good.
Well, the fact that the SF90 is all-wheel drive with the e-motors in the front, it doesn't improve the street dynamics of the car. It just makes it heavier. Yes, it's a little quicker in the acceleration, and it's a little quicker around a racetrack at the absolute limit. But in terms of like everyday driving and fun driving, there's no difference at all. In fact, the 296 I like better because it feels lighter and more kind of, you know, lively. But I wasn't that stoked on the F8 when I drove the F8. It felt like they had really pushed the 458 platform as far as it could go. This does feel new. It feels more rigid. It still feels light. I don't mind the V6 engine. I think it doesn't sound amazing outside the car, but inside the car it sounds really nice. And you could do a lot of miles in this thing. The UI, am not really a fan. The touchpad on the steering wheel, the fact that you have to click it to activate it and then do the swipey thing and the tappy thing.
Well,
the fact that the start button is haptic.
Fixed a problem that was innate with the capacitive buttons. Because when in the SF90, we didn't have that function.
And the Roma.
So we kept bumping. We just were holding the steering wheel, but it kept activating voice control.
Right.
So the way to fix that is to lock it out, but it's just like the system's flawed from the get-go.
Yeah, they've put a patch on a bad design rather than changing the design.
Yeah.
Not having a real button to start the car is
such a disappointment.
Is really disappointing.
Especially because we have the GR Corolla outside, which just has a big button like most cars today. But the fact that in this Ferrari, you just tap this bottom of the steering wheel twice, and then it turns on. It's underwhelming.
It's not. I don't
drama.
feel involved.
Yeah.
I'm reminded that that there's a computer in between me and the car. And then I had a bunch of problems with CarPlay, even though it's a $5,000 option. I at one point pulled up CarPlay and it froze out the screen, and it froze it was the entire gauge cluster. So it froze it.
Whoa.
And so the speedometer kept working, but I had no tach, I had no other gauges, and it was just frozen on the CarPlay screen. and I couldn't. I had to stop and restart the whole car to make it go away. Like, it's one thing. Like, I've had CarPlay freeze in other cars, and usually it freezes the center screen, but you don't lose your primary gauge cluster. When everything goes through that one gauge cluster, it better work.
Well, that happened in that Panamera last week.
Yeah.
The media screen froze with CarPlay. But
Right.
everything, I could still see how fast I was going, what my gas level was, etc.
So this froze like that, and that was kind of annoying.
On the Range Rover launch, the gauge cluster turned black except for the very outside screens. And I called someone over. I was like, "Oh, is this like a night mode?" And they looked and they went, "No, we're gonna get you another car." Sorry, getting a quick tangent.
But so it's frustrating when there's stuff like that. You know, it's like they've done a lot to make this car usable every day, but then the kind of features you'd want to use in your everyday car can sort of mess up stuff.
Yeah.
But in general, it was a very nice car. I mean, as it should be for that much money. But it's there's going to be people that hate it because it's a hybrid, and you probably shouldn't.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
that other thing, it has other little issues, you know, that come from it being a small volume car. And there's decisions that were made with the UI that I don't think were right. But the fact that it's a hybrid is not the problem or a problem.
If you hate that, but you drove it in performance mode or qualifying mode, all you're going to think is, wow, this car makes power from way below where I thought it would. Just because it's adding torque fill and basically adding power below that peak boost. So it's just going to feel like a quicker car. Just ignore the hybrid stickers or whatever on the screen.
Yeah, and you don't ever have to plug it in. If you just put it in performance mode, it will hold the battery at approximately 50% charge for basically forever.
Yeah, and you can just charge it while you drive in, I think, quality mode.
Yeah. No, the other way. Qualifying drains the battery.
That's
Performance mode
Save
will
some.
hold it, or you can put it in like charge save mode, and it will pump it up a bit. But it was pretty cool. I was in general, I was a fan. And they just the haptic thing, or not haptic, the touch panels.
Capacitive things, yeah.
Yeah, that's not for me. I don't think.
Hopefully, Volkswagen is the canary in that coal mine. They're going to bring real buttons back to the steering wheel, and hopefully, the popularity and celebration of that encourages companies like Ferrari and other ones to do the same thing. I think this was a new tech. Everyone was excited for it, and it does look futuristic. Like, it looks cool. Like the Panamera center stack and most other Porsches, especially with soft light, the piano black plastic looks really nice and clean and fancy. When the light hits it, it looks a little bit like Charlie Sheen's table. Like, you can kind of see the dust on it.
Yeah.
But it works pretty well. But it's just not as nice as just a solid button that you know you've activated.
And you know, now I'm driving the Mercedes SL63, the new one, and we don't want to go too into it because we'll have a video and we'll circle back. But pretty much all buttons are gone. And it's funny that, like, you're not allowed, it's illegal to use a cell phone with your hands while driving, but you're basically now forced to use a big tablet while driving.
Can you use an iPad while driving? Like, that's
I mean, if
officer.
It would be an interesting argument to make in court that Mercedes is forcing you to use this tablet, whereas if you were to, you know, rest an iPad on the Mercedes tablet and use that somehow it's a problem.
That would be a viral video if you're like, we got pulled over on purpose, or just use an iPad and then see what happens. Like, what's the discussion with the officer like?
Yeah. And the Mercedes is, as Mercedes are, you know, it's so full of tech. There's so many features and options and settings and stuff that you can do through that iPad, most of which you can just do while you're driving. Anything that's not actually typing on a keyboard like a destination, you could do while you're driving.
That's a funny thing that most car companies do. You're not allowed to type a destination, but let's say typing that destination would require 15 pokes with your finger. But you could use other functions that would require as much attention, and it's fine. Like, activate the seat massager and the heater and this and that.
The legislation hasn't caught up with the features. I mean, the features always move faster than the legislation.
Yeah.
And they just, like, that law goes back to like the very first GPS touchscreens, and now you can just do so much more.
Right.
You know, it used to be the GPS touchscreen, but the radio itself had buttons and whatever.
Yeah.
Now everything is through the touchscreen, and so it's just.
That's a good point.
Yeah. The weirdest thing on that Mercedes, did you put the top down when you had it for the day?
No, I had
So
stuff in
to
the
put
back.
the top down or up, you have to swipe. You know those swipes like like an old unlock your phone swipe? You have to do a swipe and then hold for the entire time. So it's not just a button that is down and
You gotta
up.
hold on the
You have to
screen?
hold on the screen. Swipe, hold for like 30 seconds for the top
silly.
to go up and down.
You should have to hold for 2 seconds so that it confirms you want that.
Yeah.
But after that, you should let go. I mean,
It's weird.
it's an SL. Like
It's
it should
really-
do the work for me.
Yeah, it's
really.
weird. It's very strange.
Oh, that's
a weird choice.
decision.
Yeah, it's a weird choice. I don't know why they did that.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to that after we do our review next week. Zach got a package and
Yeah.
wanted to wait to tell me what it was
I
until
didn't
we were
open it,
recording.
but this thing, yeah.
But you know what it's supposed to be?
Yeah, well, the card. So this is from a company called Inert Racing.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Jim Coctavi. Probably pronouncing that wrong, but
I would hope so.
I hope so too. Let's go with Coctavi. Okay. The second K is silent.
Yeah.
This is a 1/12 scale wooden buck of a Shelby Cobra. It takes about 30 minutes to assemble. So it's all the little wooden pieces.
Oh.
And then it turns
Oh,
into like
cool.
a miniature wooden design buck.
Oh
which
yeah,
is
here.
super
Can
cool.
you pull up camera 2, Zach, and we can.
You are on.
Does that
Yeah.
look right? It's like what you would hammer the body panels over back in the 60s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so,
oh, that's pretty
so,
cool.
I mean, that's what so I haven't unwrapped it because I want to be able to assemble it at home, but that is really awesome.
Oh,
'Cause
that's fine.
The few times I've been in design studios or at shops where they had the wooden buck, I just think it's so amazing.
Yeah.
Especially back in the day when they'd cut them with like a jigsaw. It wasn't a CNC laser cutter or
Right.
whatever. It was just by hand. And then
Oh,
they
that's
hammer
very
the panels
cool.
over it. So that's really cool.
Oh,
thank you,
Jim.
Inert Racing.
We'll put that together later.
Yeah.
Good looking out.
You want to cover this news real quick before
We
we,
got a
talk
couple
about
news stories. Yeah,
Salesforce?
Looks like the Acura Integra Type S has been promoted, and it's been revealed. It's been promoted.
It's gotten promoted.
It has.
Acura got a promotion.
It was in my PR emails inbox, and as a consequence, it's been written about by your standard issue sites. I mean, one can basically assume it's a Civic Type R that's been integrized.
CTR touring.
Yeah, basically, right? So the Integra versus the Civic SI, it's the same car, right? With just like leather and A's instead of H's, basically, right? Because you drove it.
I did drive it, and it was very nice inside. Although when we drove the Civic Type R, so much of that dash looks exactly the same. I know they're the same car, but even the finish on a lot of the buttons was just as nice in the Civic as it was in the Acura.
Well, when they brought that yellow Acura here, the Integra like pre-pro like display prototype, like we weren't allowed to take pictures of it or anything, but like they were doing something with it here, and I like sat in it and poked around, and I was like, oh, you've just made some surfaces leather and changed the steering wheel cap to an A. Like the Civic Si was nice enough that there wasn't a whole lot of point to the Integra other than it was a full hatchback instead of a trunk, which I liked.
True. And the interior was nice. The seats were nice. The leather work was nice. But basically, your entire view forward, other than that steering wheel button, is like
same.
Honda. Yeah, it's the same.
So Integra Type S will probably be a Civic Type R with the same treatment.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
What will be interesting is if they soften the suspension a little bit.
That would be nice.
Like then you get all the good. Then it's truly like the last touring, softer but just as quick in a straight line.
Yeah, because the Civic Type R, when I drove it for Performance Car of the Year, it didn't seem quite as stiff as when you and I drove it on the launch. When we drove it on the launch, it felt firmer, and I don't think they changed anything. I just think it was maybe in the context of a bunch of sports cars, to get out of a GT4 RS and into the Civic Type R, it probably doesn't feel that stiff. But if you drive it by itself, then it still feels pretty stiff. And at Sonoma, which was bumpy, it felt stiff.
Yeah, which I think kind of suits the car. It's a Type R, like it's going to be aggressive, but if you don't want that out of it, but you like all the other parts about that car, because there are a lot of things to like about it besides, like the stiff agility.
Yeah.
Then this could be a good solution.
Yeah. I mean, a slightly softer Civic Type R, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So we've got that. And allegedly, Tesla has delivered semi-trucks. And I say that allegedly because you have to believe that Tesla has delivered them. I haven't seen any yet.
Well, I think Pepsi said that one was delivered. So Pepsi was the first company to put in a large order 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They bought 100 or something.
I said that I didn't think they would actually deliver them by December. So it is December, and they allegedly have delivered at least one. So technically, I'm wrong, and I'll own that. That's fine. When I'm wrong about things, I will own them. But I haven't seen one that says Pepsi on it yet, or Frito-Lay, which is a Pepsi subsidiary. And I imagine that when Pepsi does have one, I will be getting an email about that, because it's the kind of thing I would be getting an email about. That Jonathan Ramsey article on Autoblog, I liked. I read that. It was that's what you're on right now. Jonathan Ramsey was a trucker. I just went on the R8 GT launch with him. I like Jonathan.
Oh, nice.
He was a trucker, and he wrote a very good article on Autoblog from a few days ago with his analysis of the semi-truck based on his experience driving semis. And he,
Cool.
he takes a very balanced view of the claims made by Tesla as well as the realities of the situation. And it seems like, look, we've been saying for a while that local delivery trucks, not necessarily, everyone thinks about trucking as being like long haul trucking, and most trucking is short haul, regional, day, people who go sleep in their own beds every night. And so stuff like beer and soda delivery to bars and restaurants, the trucks that are delivering snacks to 7-Eleven, those are not long haul interstate trucks, and those trucks should be electric. And they're run the same route every day, very predictable. Our FedEx guy here at the shop showed up in one of those Rivian electric delivery vans the other day, and they let me poke around in it.
Cool.
And it seemed pretty cool. The driver said she really liked it. It was really smooth. It had plenty of range for her daily route, and they would charge it overnight. But the wheelbase was much longer than the previous van, and so making 3-point turns and U-turns was much trickier than the previous van.
I wonder if they had to just fit. They needed to lengthen it to fit the battery, or if that's what
Maybe
the design was for.
Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
But that was a complaint I hadn't thought of. And Jonathan said, he's interested to see this, but they made a video that showed it doing this 500-mile drive, and fucking sprayed that thing everywhere that it made a 500-mile drive from like Reno to LA or something like that. And Jonathan watched the video, and it seems that at certain points during this drive, this truck went real slow.
Oh.
It was down in like the 30s or low 40s miles an hour on the interstate. And I'm not just talking about going over enormous hills. He has an analysis of it, and he said that the driver was wearing a baseball hat that in some instances was covering the screen that showed the speed, and so it made it even tougher to analyze every single bit of it.
Interesting.
Maybe, conspiracy theory, may be intentional, may not be intentional, but they certainly didn't make a point of allowing you to see every minute of data. And look, it's Tesla. So that painted black video where they claim to show self-driving is heavily edited and absolutely full of shit. And so it's not
they don't
beyond
have the best record. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like the reason I'm so skeptical about this truck is because they have a long track record of horse shit. If they didn't have that, if they had a long track record of being upfront and honest about their claims and not using misleading video to advance their agenda, then I wouldn't be discussing it like
Well, it's
this.
like Totara, like if they go back, or SSC, if they go reset the speed record, or go for the record rather,
Yeah.
they're going to need so many different redundant pieces of measurement because that first time was hugely problematic.
Right.
So the size of the Rivian vehicle.
Yeah, see the wheelbase, the rear wheels are
So the overall length ranges from 248 inches to 321 inches. I couldn't find in quick order FedEx van sizes, but depending on which one she's driving, like that.
I think it's the short. I think it was the short one even, but you can just see it's like in the previous vans, which were like the Ford-based ones, like the Transit-based ones. There's more rear overhang past the rear wheel.
Okay.
Whereas in this, the rear wheel is pushed further towards the back.
Right.
It might have been the middle one, the 700.
Oh, right.
It's
So
hard to
even
tell.
if the van is, just for argument's sake, the same length as the FedEx van with that longer wheelbase, that's why turning is going to be so much harder.
Right.
Because like you said, the overhangs, it's like a sports car.
Yeah. Probably handles good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I'm not anti-electric trucks at all. I'm pro-electric trucks. I would at this point, based on track record, I would question any claim Tesla makes about any of their products.
Yeah, I agree.
They've delivered it. Like, okay, have they? Because like Pepsi's not talking about it yet.
And it goes back to the energy density question of like, is a battery the right solution for a long haul truck, or or an 18-wheeler sized vehicle instead of something like this, a local van, delivery van?
Yeah, or even like a local box truck. A local box truck could be a good thing. Anything that's idling in front of a fucking 7-Eleven,
Right, yeah.
like for
And doing short drives where the engine is like hot, then it's cold, then it's hot, then it's cold, and it's especially like stop and go traffic, stuff like that. Delivering around cities.
Yeah,
it just makes more sense to have an EV.
Yeah,
yeah.
So that's the things.
And then
what else you got? Oh, yeah. What is this 2005 Ford GT resurrected with 1,500 horsepower? Who found 30 Ford GT chassis?
A company in Michigan, the company's called GT1. They bought back in the day like the final 30 chassis. They say that's what the press release says. There were 30 chassis left over or something, and they bought them, and then now they have molded new bodies out of carbon fiber using the body molds from Ford's, I think, GT3 team. So that's why it looks really wide. Yeah, so they secured the molds from a company called Maytech Concepts, and they raced the Ford GT in the GT3 and GT1 categories. So
that car was a terrible race car, but it looked good.
Well, hopefully it's a better race car now, because this one they're trying to sell as like a track special, but it's 1,500 horsepower.
Yeah.
Which is a bit much for your local club racer who has a bunch of money but not enough time to do all the racing schools in the world.
Yeah.
That is aggressive.
That's not what I would want as a club racer, but it is what you'd want as a runway racer.
Yeah.
I mean, this car would make an excellent runway car. It's so interesting that they had 30 chassis that they kept.
It's like the continuation thing with Jaguar and whatnot. They find an extra VIN number here or there, and then they can build the thing from 50, 60 years ago.
And I wonder, this is a unibody car, so I wonder what the term chassis even means.
Good question.
It looks cool.
Does look cool.
And it certainly would be very nice as a street car, but is it only going to be a track day car? No holds barred club sports car. It's so weird they call it club sports car. These cars were raced in period, and they never won anything. It's so funny because that Ford GT was such a great road car, one of the best road cars ever made. And by making it a road car first and foremost, they ignored a lot of what they needed to make it a race car, and it just was shitty at racing. The new car was a race car first, which makes it not such a great road car. It's clearly a homologation race car first. You could tell from the 5 seconds.
Do you know why it didn't win back then? Like, was it team issues?
It wasn't. It was not really
issues?
campaigned by Ford so much. It was campaigned by privateers, and they just never won anything. I didn't pay that much attention to it, other than it didn't win very much,
Gotcha.
if ever.
I'm curious what they were
It
up
looked
against.
awesome.
Yeah.
It sounded cool. You know, I saw it race at Sebring, I saw it race at Daytona, and it looked cool as fuck. It just was not a successful car. But this looks awesome, but I'd want it as a street car. I wouldn't want it as a race car. Do
I
they
would
have
just want a
do they have
normal
interior photos? Does it have an interior?
Let's see.
I mean, the body looks cool in carbon. There's no question
interior
about
photos,
that. No
yeah.
interior photos.
Bare carbon is a good look.
Yeah.
I would never.
You
pick
don't need 1,500 horsepower,
You do
though.
not.
It just, that's not what you need for a track day car.
Let's see. You can reserve one. I'm curious if there's a price.
I bet you it's like $2 million.
It probably will be. Wow, look at that. This is they have the rear hatch off so you can see.
Stored
like the
by
rear
Ford
subframe.
Performance. I wonder if they were just stored as spares for if you crashed one. That may be a problem if you crash one. You need one of these now.
You got to buy one of these and then do a skin graft.
Go back up. It's 1,500 horsepower, ball bearing turbochargers.
I mean, of course.
Okay.
Carbon, yeah.
Carbon and body. Roush Yates 427 V8, 9,000 RPM.
Whoa.
Titanium valves. Well, that looks like it has a cage in it there.
It does.
That may be the mule, though. No interior photos. I'm guessing it's going to be full race car.
Wow.
I'm not.
It really depends on the price.
Yeah.
Like, this could be a smart endeavor or a poor endeavor, especially in today's market. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe people shopping at this level, it won't matter. But like, if this was $2 million and it's like the FXX thing. Like, the only thing you can do with it is drive it at a track on certain days at certain road courses. But I don't know. Is that a fun?
If it's successful, it's probably not good for the world. It means that 30 people have so much money that it doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't find that to be a desirable thing. I guess the more that country club track days or country club racetracks are popular, and I guess it begets itself, right? Once you have a house at a country club track, you're going to want all the newest thing, and if you're already a member and you've got somewhere to play with it, you know, why not? The people that I've met who belong to country club tracks have cars that are absurd, and because the car never has to be driven on the street or transported anywhere. They don't need to own a flatbed. They don't need to own a trailer. They keep it in their garage at the house, at the track, and just drive it through the paddock, and then they're on track. And that's the people that have got Valkyries and SCV12s and FXXs and all that kind of shit that you're like, who even buys this stuff? And like, that's who.
Yeah.
This one is interesting because it's not a factory built car. Like, it's an aftermarket company who takes chassis. It's not. A lot of times you need that factory support for this kind of stuff.
Or at least you need the name and the paperwork, because I think that helps with the resale.
Yeah.
You know, going, oh, this is the Aston Valkyrie.
Yeah.
That was a, no stone unturned blank check situation from Aston Martin,
Right.
versus having to explain, well, this was from this company and this thing, and they bought these chassis and they got the molds from them, and da-da-da-da-da. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's no way that's under $1 million.
Probably not.
No way. Probably close to 2. And what's crazy is they'll probably sell them.
I don't know. They're making 30.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's bold.
It's bold. I don't know. I feel like we'll see price reduction depending on where it starts.
We won't. If there's a reduction, we won't hear about it, I assure you.
That's a good point. Yeah, but those are the news stories I found of interest. But should we talk Salesforce?
Sure. All right, so we're going to do a segment of the show that is a sponsored segment, and it's brought to you by Salesforce, which is a research thing, right? They do a survey of 500 industry leaders in the car sales business, and they have sponsored a discussion that you and I will have about their latest Trends in Automotive report. Now, what I did was I told them that we would do this. I don't like getting into what I call the Noah's Arcade, which is where the sponsor bleeds too much and controls the narrative of the show. But I said that we would discuss this report under the condition that we would give our own thoughts. There's
Right.
no oversight. They don't get to interpret what we think about this report. And there is some interesting stuff in here.
Right.
I do think the audience will find this interesting. This is not purely a grab.
It's not a commercial.
No.
And they didn't give us a script.
No.
They gave us information,
Right.
I should say.
And we could say whatever we want about it. Our opinions are our own based on what's in this report. So this Salesforce Trends in Automotive report, they pull 500 industry leaders, okay, about how digital imperatives are transforming the customer experience. Okay, what does that mean? It's basically how they talk to, and at the back of this, they say who, in the appendix, did you see this? It's who responded to this survey. So we've got 42% of the respondents are in the auto retail business, 32% are in the OEM manufacturer side, 27% are in the financing side. Okay, so it's a spread of retailers, manufacturers, and finances.
All people on the other side of the tennis net from the consumer, we should
Right.
basically.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Like, we have opinions about dealers, but what are dealers and OEMs saying about you and about themselves, right? And in terms of the positions within those industries, we've got 12% of those are owner or equivalent, CEO or whatever. 13% are board of director level chairman or equity owner. Oh, no, sorry. Owner or equivalent is not CEO. 21% is C-suite executives. 30% is vice president, senior vice president, executive vice president or equivalent. 25% director or equivalent. So all high up, not like guy on the sales room floor. These are suits. Right? And so I read this report. You read this report.
Yep.
It's about 20 pages. It's pretty easy to read. And so I made some notes of some takeaways from this report. Okay, so Salesforce is this project that focuses on how dealers are doing business and could be doing business as reported by these industry insiders, right? And basically dealers are beginning to come to terms with the fact that customers hate them. I mean, they do, right? I mean,
do.
If you think about the success of a Tesla, of Tesla as a company, there are evangelists, there's diehard people, there's people that think Elon is saving the future and they're not smart, but that's okay. They've been told certain things. But there's a few people that I have talked to personally that have bought Teslas specifically because you could go on a website, click buy, enter your credit card information, and then a couple weeks later, a car arrives. They don't want to go to dealers. They don't want to talk to salespeople. They don't want to talk to finance people. They want a slick online experience because that's what they're used to now. I mean, and even like, think about like a Bring a Trailer compared to a traditional classic car dealer.
Oh yeah, Bring a Trailer is to classic car shopping what Tesla has been to new car shopping.
Right.
It's like, hey, you buy it online, and everyone got used to it, saw the benefits, ignored whatever cons or the benefits overshadow it, and
Right.
went, all right, let's do this, and it's grown.
And with a new car where the quality in theory should be consistent, it's not like you need to have a PPI done on a brand new car, or you shouldn't. You should be able to just kind of click and buy. And so the consumers and dealers are reporting this. This information comes from dealers. That consumers hate the clunky nature of ordering a car. They hate haggling. They would rather a more transparent pricing scheme. They want transactions to be more streamlined. They want to be able to apply for financing, buy the car, and pay for the car, make payments online. The dealers are aware of this problem, but according to the report, they don't seem to be fully understanding of their own roles and why customers hate them. They don't realize that like they could be doing these things, but they're not.
Right. Well, there was part of the report said that only 24% of the people that were surveyed said that the customers are actually paying the price that is negotiated or advertised on the website.
Right.
So it's like 75% of the time they're changing. Now, it doesn't say in this if that's due to taxes, fees that get added or changes made, but basically people are expecting to pay something and it changes.
And it changes, yeah. And like, if you're a dealer, I am other than someone who's going to pay 50 over, that level of sucker. I'm not that level of sucker, but in the old times, I'm a best case client, right? I have good credit and sometimes I'm paying cash for a brand new car. I do not haggle the price. The MSRP plus the sales tax, that's what I pay. And when I work with guys like Galpin, the trade-off is I want an early allocation for some new hot thing. I will pay sticker. I'll talk about the car, and that's it, right? So even for me, where I don't have to haggle, and I don't sometimes have to do financing, the experience still sucks. It takes like 2 hours from when you show up. Your car's here, come get it. From when you show up until when you leave, it's like 2.5 hours of like paperwork and all that stuff. And I wish I could just like DocuSign that joint. You know what I mean? But so the dealers know this, right? Further into the report, it says, when it comes to providing digitized or personalized services, dealers, financial service providers, and OEMs universally rank themselves as above average.
They're all doing great.
Which is like, if you ask 100 drivers on the road, are you above average, average, below average? Everyone thinks they're an above average driver. They can't be. It's not actually possible. And the reality is that a bunch of these businesses that rate themselves as above average in digital services are actually below average. They just are in denial about it. Right? But on the flip side of that, the same respondents are very self-aware when it comes to providing financing and finance-related services online. They're all self-reporting in the 20th percentile, which is like well below average, as opposed to the 60th percentile for the previous category. So almost everyone else thinks they're below average. So the average actually is quite low if they're all below that. So they all know that they're all well aware that they're not doing a good job providing financing, whether it's applying or making payments online. No one is doing a good job, and they know it, which I think is kind of interesting. 80% of OEMs and retailers are reporting that customers have trouble accessing information digitally. 80%. And 75% of these companies report that customers have trouble accessing customer service. That seems like a solvable problem.
Yeah, it does. They don't specify what data the customers are trying to access, right? Like what service?
Accessing all information digitally.
Okay.
So whether that's your financing, whether that's availability of a certain model, whether that's is this car located here or here, whether that's can this dealer perform a swap, just whatever stuff that people
Common
want to
questions
do.
people ask when they're on the dealership floor,
Yeah.
but they're not getting answered on the websites, basically.
Right, basically. And then we talk about customer data, right? So there's your data which they get from applying for credit, the dealership, the marketing data. But now we've got your vehicle data, because so many cars are connected cars, right? So there's like telemetry and maintenance logs and also your location data, where you are, where you're going, that kind of stuff. That's all data, and this is stuff that scared me. Mm-hmm. When I first drove the Polestar 2, which was the first car that I drove that was like Google connected, I was like, oh shit, Google knows. And granted, yeah, I carry a phone, so but data, it's both sides, right? They can use the data to tell you that your car needs this service, right? Like my Ford app tells me that. It tells you if there's a recall that you have to do something about. It can tell you if your car is parked and has been unlocked for a long time. It can improve your experience. Maybe if the financing is connected, it could tell you if you've missed a payment or your credit card was declined. that kind of stuff.
Right, but I mean, I feel like you could get those data points from the finance company. I mean, they have your information.
Oh, for sure.
Or the car could talk to you through an app without having to talk to home base.
It could. But if
Not
you're a
gonna.
company,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
of
an
course.
OEM or a dealer,
Right.
why would you want that? I mean, you need to. So basically, what I'm reading out of this report is that a lot of these connected cars are EVs. Not all of them, but EVs are more connected than other vehicles, predominantly because of the, here's your charge range,
Right.
here's where you have to go to, that kind of stuff, right? And there's other reasons, but EVs are very connected. All EVs are connected, basically, unless you're driving some old-ass RAV4 from the 90s that's somehow still around, or like a first-gen Tesla Roadster. Like any modern EV is a fully connected car, right? And so they want to use, companies want to use your data. Straight up.
Of course.
Surveillance
It's a huge
capitalism.
business. Selling data is a giant business.
And they want to do it for surveillance capitalism, but they also want to do it to improve your experience, where the car knows what it needs and that kind of stuff. And so the data that they're looking to sell, your data, is intended to offset the fact that EVs have a lower profit margin than traditional gas cars.
So that's where they make up the difference.
That's where they're trying to make up the difference, because dealers don't want to sell EVs because they make less money on them.
Yeah, didn't like 2 days ago the CEO of Stellantis, I think, said, I hope people don't buy the new Fiat 500e too much because it costs like
they probably lose money on them
every time we sell one. Yeah.
They probably lose money on them. So that's what they're going to do to make up the difference. Be advised. And so in order to make good use of this data, OEMs and retailers are investing in a variety of connected vehicle experiences, some of which will improve the customer experience. Some of which are going to target subprime customers. So, for instance, the connected vehicle experience could include a pay-as-you-go financing model, right? Which is basically just a fucking slickened version of buy here, pay here, right? Like you could, where you can get certain features paid by the month, which we've already discussed on other topics. Mercedes is doing a power boost, in their new EV, the EQ.
EQS.
Is it the EQS, the new EQS? Or what's the other EQ? EQE?
I thought
there's another EQ sedan. There's EQS, EQB is the SUV, and there's EQE. The EQE is the one below EQS. And so it's the E-Class as opposed to the S-Class one. And they're offering, for $1,200 a year, a subscription to faster acceleration. Which I think is
Tesla did that, didn't they? Like you could the jump from like a 75 to 85 or whatever it is.
Yeah, downloadable.
It wasn't different hardware; it was just different software.
Right. So they're doing. There's that. We've already talked about on this show with Celica. We talked about the digital license plates where you could pay by the month or whatever, and so they're using that connected vehicle technology. It's going to be coming for the finances, right? And EVs are because they're so connected, and because everything is computer controlled,
right, and
wirelessly controllable in some ways. I can power my car on and off, lock my car off from my phone. If I can do it from my phone, they can do that shit in Detroit.
Right. I mean, it's like when they built in more sensors for ABS, engineers go, well, what else can we do with these sensors? And they can use that same data, hardware data, to make like traction control or other systems. So now they just use it to monetize it.
Right. Further into the report, EV manufacturing and adoption. This will not shock anybody, but the U.S. is being smoked by China. I mean, China's EV adoption and manufacturing is ridiculous. BYD is making like more cars now in a year than like Tesla has made ever. They're just cranking these things out, and they have different standards. They're making their own battery packs over there, but it's kind of like,
well, they have labor standards that are different too. I mean,
also that, there's a lot of
benefits, a lot of tailwind for them.
Sure, but like, do you remember like when we went to Thailand sailing in 2017, and like the cell service was like amazing everywhere.
in the middle of the ocean.
In the middle of the, like everywhere, like amazing, perfect clarity cell service. And you're like, wait a minute, why are we here? And it's like in Thailand they skipped over landlines. They went straight from like nothing. They didn't have like dial-up internet and like those plug-in modems, like the way that like they skipped straight to cellular, and a lot of other countries did that too.
A lot of Africa is doing that too.
Yeah, and like that I think is kind of like what China's doing, where they're just going, their industrial revolution is they're just skipping, because they've not made like good gasoline cars, so they just skipped over that entirely and went straight at EVs.
Yeah.
EVs, obviously, OEMs and retailers are both investing heavily. You know, basically every car dealer now is going to have EV chargers at it, right? Porsche is doing these like they do
the big chargers.
They do the really fast chargers.
Yeah.
My little Ford dealer over here has level 2 chargers, and they're kind of dinky. But like some of these models they're putting DC fast chargers in.
I mean, that's a good selling point when you show someone this new car and you're like, by the way, here's how fast it charges. Like, let's plug it in.
Yeah.
Let's go get coffee and come back, and like, that will help somebody.
Well, they're also, dealerships are also putting in chargers in hopes of luring their clients to park there. You know, so a lot of these dealers maybe they're next to a grocery store, maybe they're next to a Walmart or whatever, and they're hoping that their clients will park there and charge while they do their shopping, and maybe they'll take a spin through the showroom and see the new whatever. You know, that's like a thing. And one thing that they mentioned regarding connected cars and EVs that is good for the customer is the biggest priority is anti-theft. Electric cars are harder to steal. There's no key, to copy. Like, yes, there's like RFID, but it's not as simple as like an old school style clicker with a lot of this stuff. So they are prioritizing anti-theft, EV specific maintenance schedules, and over-the-air updates, all of which are, those are consumer friendly. So
definitely.
Your data is worth something to you and to them. And obviously, the installation of EV charging stations will keep you shopping and/or doing other things while you're waiting for your car to charge. The bad news is nobody, OEMs, retailers, and finance, thinks that charging networks are prioritized the way that they should be. All the respondents put EV charge network partnerships in third place behind security and insurance.
Wow.
As the benefits of EV, which is not so great, right?
It's not, but
Let me see what the other.
But you got to understand their position. Like, Ford isn't opening Ford branded charging stations. It's like you got EV America or Electrify America and EV Go, and I'm sure they're bugging them on the phone, going, "How come you guys aren't on this? How come this isn't happening quicker?"
Right. So that question is from page 17 of the thing. The question is, in the context of a connected vehicle ecosystem, which external industry partnerships would provide the best customer service? So this is the one on the right of this page. I mean, it's not like a huge margin. The top 3 answers are within a couple percentage points of each other. But number 1 is car security, 39%. Number 2, insurance, 37%. Number 3 is charge networks, 36%. But like, I'm guessing right now that they are, because EVs are still a high-end vehicle, a lot of the people who are buying them do have somewhere to charge at home or at work. But I feel like charge networks are going to move to number 1. I mean, the best customer experience with an EV is a good charge network.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
having the connected vehicle, having the vehicle be able to tell you where the chargers are, how many are full, how many are broken, like getting a lot of that information, which I think Google just had an update where Google Maps now shows you what's going on at a lot of the charging stations. But having that information in the car would be really, really great.
Right. So, there's some interesting stuff in here. I mean, it's
The self-awareness is very funny.
The self-awareness is funny.
Because early in the page, they're just like, look, people are unhappy with the dealership experience still at a huge margin.
Yeah.
They want to go to digital only. Like the people, it has been such a stressful event for everyone, basically since car dealerships were invented, because you think you're getting fucked the whole time, and you feel like it's this weird game of chess, and you never feel like you've won when you leave.
Yeah.
And so if people can remove that stress and just see a price, and they make peace with the price, and then they buy it, and they know that that's what's happening, it makes total sense psychologically.
Yeah.
That would be preferred.
It's fun to see behind the curtain, and see what these guys are thinking internally. I mean, because this survey it's an industry thing. It's like an insider thing. It's not really meant to be read by consumers, but we're coming at it from a consumer perspective, and so it's funny to see they're totally self-aware that people hate them, but they're kind of they're not really willing to take the steps yet to do things that would make people hate them less.
I mean, a lot of it, there's really big machinery they have to change for the industry to hold up. Like one of the points was that a lot of the sites are hard to shop for on mobile. And even when I've used desktop computers, I would say that the variety of speed at which an OEM's website loads is pretty vast. And some of them work really well and are easy to find, to navigate. And then some of them are really difficult, and you got to click through 3 pages to see the comparisons between 2 trims. Like, it's kind of shocking. And I know that there's a lot of information the car companies have to get across. They're trying to show you 5 different interior stitching options and then like 5 different tech options, but they're not all created equal. So to try to optimize that complexity for mobile is definitely hard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big hill to climb.
Yeah. But there's simple stuff you should be able to do. Like they mentioned something that they wish they could do is buy extra lease miles online. Like, come on. Like that's real basic.
Yeah.
Like you should log into a website or an app and click add miles, boom, done.
Yeah.
Like that shouldn't be hard.
And if they made that really low friction, they'd probably sell a lot more miles and find a way to make that money.
Yeah. It's because for many people, it's not necessarily about the money. I mean, I'm sure it's not like money isn't real. Money's real. But there's also that, like you said, friction of the process that would prevent people from doing it. So it's crazy. So that 10 minutes of radio right there was brought to you by Salesforce. We're going to link this entire document in the show notes. So if you want to read this report for yourself in its entirety and come to your own conclusions, we will put it there for you. I think it was interesting to see behind the curtain of dealers. And so thanks to Salesforce for letting us do that. Let's go to the questions from the Patreon. Of course, patreon.com/the Smoking Tire Podcast. If you want to listen to the show ad-free, if you want to ask us questions, if you want to get an extra show every month, that's where you do it, patreon.com/the Smoking Tire Podcast. Michael Cosgrove said, my kids have outgrown the back seat of my Carrera T, so I need a new daily with a larger back seat, and I would like for it to also be a Porsche. The headroom in the rear of the Macan isn't tall enough. So what is more engaging on fun roads, the Panamera or the Cayenne? It depends which.
Depends on which spec.
Yeah, a Cayenne Turbo GT is more engaging on fun roads than a base Panamera. But like identical power for like if you were to, S for S, 4S for 4S, Panamera has a lower center of gravity, better steering, it's faster. So I would say, dollar for dollar, the Panamera is better.
Yeah.
There's ground clearance with the Cayenne, but the Panamera is better for other stuff, right?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I have no notes.
Derek Yegan, GR Corolla versus Civic Type R. What is an acceptable ADM for the driving experience? 0. I mean, to me, 0.
It's not a limited production, right? Are either of these limited?
Not as far as I know. I mean, the Civic Type R might be. GR Corolla is not.
See.
The 2019 Civic Type R is 0. 0. I mean, the 2019 Civic Type R might be. GR Corolla is not. I mean, the Civic Type R might be. GR Corolla is not. The 2019 Civic Type R might be. GR Corolla is not. The Both of those cars, and we'll talk more about the GR Corolla in detail next week, but both of these cars to me drive like their MSRP. 45 grand driving experience. Fun, engaging, but not 55, not 65, not $75,000. So to me, acceptable ADM, $0. Zach, do you agree with that?
Yeah, unless it's like if it's $2,000, but and that's if the difference between you getting this car and not getting this car because the dealership's being a jerk, but it's
sub $5 grand, I guess.
Yeah, because we know that what they've been doing is just capitalizing on supply and demand and asking people to pay 20 grand over for Broncos during COVID because it's like, hey, do you want one? It's like, that's not an $80,000 truck or a $100,000 truck. And now people are turning those cars in. I saw a Reddit thread that was like, hey, I'm a car salesman. My customer brought this car in that he bought in 2020 and he's underwater for like $18,000 on it, and more than the car's value. He's like, is anyone else seeing this? And someone replied, they're like, did you not think this was going to happen, Mr. Salesman? Like, you guys sold cars for way more than they were worth, and now they're going to get turned in, but they're still going to have that value on the balance sheet, or on the loan terms, rather. Real quick, the production numbers of the Civic Type R, this says that the first wave will be 2,500 units for 2023, then they're going to make 3,000, and those will be made in Japan. I don't know how many are coming to the U.S., but that's like the total supply for at least the first 2 years.
So they are somewhat limited.
Yeah, they're not
still
cranking them out.
Still
by
like
$5
grand. It's not. You're not talking about a $60,000 or $70,000 driving experience here.
Right.
You're talking about a very nice Civic, and you're talking about a very fun Corolla.
Right.
To spend crazy money on a Corolla or a Civic to me makes no sense at all. And it sucks because I was saying this to someone at Bill's the other day, like, I don't want everyone who buys a Corolla or everyone who buys a Civic to be someone that also has like 3 Lamborghinis, and then they just buy this for like their bomb around the city car. Like, that's not good for the brand. For everyone who has one of these cars them to be kind of like slumming as opposed to their super hoity-toity collection of supercars, and
because this could be the dream car for a person who can buy one car,
right?
And they go, hey, I can spend $45,000, but when the dealership says, well, this one's $60,000. Because Lamborghini Tom is willing to spend $60,000, and just and then he puts it in a garage or drives it a little bit. Like, that just sucks for car enthusiasts as a whole, not just for the brand.
Yeah, these are great cars, but they're both like everyday cars. They're not weekend toys so much. They're just not for that. They're for driving every day, and so you wouldn't want that to happen. Do you miss the rear wheels in the CTR? Well, no Honda's had driven rear wheels. No Civic has ever had driven rear wheels.
I think he's saying compared to the Corolla, like when you drive the CTR, having rear-driven wheels.
I would rather have the Corolla, but not because of the rear-driven wheels, but because of the ride. Lucas, why did I decide to move off the beach? Curious how I thought process. Stairs, bro. My knees, my 3-story beach house, I'd run up and down 40 flights of stairs, and I have bad knees. It was beating the shit out of me. And also, I bought that house before I met my wife, and my wife and I wanted to have a home that was ours as opposed to her living in a home that was mine. And also, my parents owned that house. That was a family real estate investment purchase, and my wife and I wanted to buy a house together that was independent of our family and design it together and have a place that was really ours as opposed to something that was mine or my family's, and so all of that, and we couldn't afford that beach house, so I couldn't afford to buy it out from my parents, so we decided to sell it and move to a place that we could afford that didn't have stairs.
It's nice, and it's quieter. The beach is
also,
you're
also
living
quiet.
in a circus.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Really.
Also, the Hellcat Owners Club like to do fucking burnouts and launches right in front of my house every single day. So
I mean, I live, very different apartment, but there's just people walking around. There's people yelling. There's burnouts and donuts happening all the time. Like it's stressful.
I'm enjoying the quiet at the new place. Yeah. I can't answer Andy's question. Maybe Zach can. Favorite places to eat in Palm Springs?
There's some Vietnamese place called like Rooster and something. Just Google Palm Springs restaurant Rooster, blah blah blah, and it'll pop up. It's amazing.
I can't remember any standout meal I've had in Palm Springs. Sorry, Andy. Nate M. Recently purchased a new Crosstrek as part of a 2-car solution. I didn't want to like it, but it is good. With the safari car craze, why is there no turbo manual Crosstrek? Don't want to cannibalize WRX sales?
I think that's the answer, because it's something the community has been asking for a long time. The Crosstrek is so good at so many things, but it's been so underpowered. But if they had made it more powerful, then why would anyone go buy a WRX? Or maybe to an extent it would hurt Forester sales too.
Yeah, or there might be a fuel economy thing. There might be...
That's true. It might raise their cafe or the cafe.
Yeah, I mean, Subaru doesn't have a lot of hybrids. You know, they don't have a lot of EVs. So every gas-powered car counts. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Crosstrek gets 33 miles per gallon highway. That's pretty good.
Light Bias says, I understand the Ferrari California falls short compared to true sports cars, but how is the California from the perspective of someone who would never use it to the limit, but as a GT, occasional fun, spirited drive, and date nights? The first-gen California, I hated.
Yeah.
Even forget by, quote, Ferrari standards, even by regular car standards, it wasn't very good.
Yeah, and it was subjective, but very ugly.
I didn't think it was good looking. The top was really complicated, and you couldn't put the top down and keep anything in the trunk, really. You had to do that shelf movie thing in the trunk. It was very expensive to maintain for its performance. And honestly, I'd rather, if what I wanted was like a cruise around GT car, I'd rather have the Maserati Gran Turismo Maserati Gran Turismo MC over a Ferrari California any day. It had all of the downsides of owning and dealing with a Ferrari and very few upsides. The California T was better.
Yes.
They put the turbo motor in it. They redesigned some of the features of the car, and adding 130 horsepower or whatever they added with the turbo motor, that made up a lot of its drawbacks. But
and then the Portofino, I think, was a successor to the California, and it everything got better.
Yeah.
It was 100% the Ferrari SL Mercedes.
Yeah.
So it was a good GT fun car.
Yeah.
That won't win on a track day, but if you don't care, it's pretty good.
But if you wanted an Italian GT, I'd rather have the Maserati MC than any of the Ferrari Californias. They're just not great, and it doesn't do it for me at all. Evan Williams, what is the best tire and why is it the Michelin's Pilot Sport 4S? I mean, why is it the best tire? Because it offers an unbelievable amount of grip and versatility in cold weather or rain. It lasts a long time.
Rides pretty quiet.
It rides well. It has good tread wear. You can use it for a variety of things. Downside is they're expensive, but it's rare that we find a tire that does so many things that well.
Yeah.
Okay. David, I live in Arizona, 30 minutes from good mountain roads. I'm looking for a mid-engine experience under $65,000. The answer is Cayman or Boxster. To follow up, it doesn't need to be anything other than rowdy and give me the fizz. I recently drove an Alpha 4C and it sucked. Okay, so David's head is in the right place. Considering a Lotus SC, Honda Beat, or a 981 Cayman S. I mean, mid-engine, there's your options are all of them. There's no hidden mid-engine cars for $65,000, right? You've got an early Lotus Evora, non-supercharged, which I think is a mistake. If you can find an Evora 400, it'll probably be $75,000 or $80,000, not $60,000. But they're very nice.
Yeah.
I like the Elise SC. It's got the supercharged engine from the Exige in the removable roof and the softer street suspension on the Elise. That's a good choice, and they bottom out at like $35,000 or $40,000 bottomed.
And I think that gives you the flavor and fizz that the Alpha does.
Yeah.
But it's a much better car. It's more reliable. The
Yeah.
handling's much better. The transmission's better. You can get it with a manual.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
A Honda Beat is a K car.
Yeah. It's
So
slow and small.
slow and small. It could be fun if you're small. It could be okay. I've never driven a Beat. I don't fit in one, but from what I gather, the Cappuccino drives better than the Beat. But I would. It's not on the same level as an Elise or a Cayman or a Boxster. I mean, to me, $65,000 gets you a great Boxster S or Cayman S. And it'll get you a great Elise SC also.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like, do you want a nice interior? Where the Elise is a little bit more raw and cheaper inside.
Alejandro, any car tracking monitoring like LoJack but with GPS that you would recommend? I have to park my old BMW on the street and I'm paranoid of it being stolen. Just get an AirTag.
Bingo.
Apple AirTags are like $30.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the best cheap. I mean, that's an amazing solution and it's inexpensive.
yeah, and they're so easy to hide. I mean, you know, if your car gets stolen and stripped within like an hour, you're out of luck anyway. But an AirTag is, you could set up alerts on your phone, especially if you're already using Apple. It's really, really easy. If the thing moves, if the thing is, you know, you can.
And if you put it somewhere that's really, really hard to access, because you only have to charge them, I think, once every 6 months.
Once a year.
Once a year. If a thief steals it, they might get that alert that says there's an AirTag near you because they've added that feature because of just all the creepy things people are doing. But the benefit is that might tell someone, hey, there's an AirTag in this car. You're not going to find it. You should move on to a different car.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be a deterrent.
I would just straight AirTag. Solitary Hero. I mentioned that for me, the 991 Carrera T slots into second place behind the 991 GT3 Touring. Where does that leave the 991 GTS? It's, you know, now that these cars are all like turbocharged, it's such little bits of like nuance. They're just not that different from each other. So the GTS was nice. But it just didn't, you know, with the Carrera T, it was like narrow body, rear wheel drive, manual, and the GTS I drove, you know, wasn't that. It was like there's like 100 variants of these things, but the GTS is like the fastest of the daily driver ones, whereas the T I liked because it was so kind of simple. Like the 991 Carrera T I drove was like cheap. It was like less than 120. I'm relatively speaking, okay. Disclaimer: anything that's a six-figure car is not cheap. But the GTS I drove was like 170, and the T I drove was 120. That's like a different kind of world for what is fundamentally a very similar product. So that's why it got me a lot of the way to the enthusiast-oriented car, but without all the extras piled on top of it that when it's more affordable, I realized I didn't need. Yeah. James Cowley, what are some of your high points from this year? Oh boy, I didn't know I was going to have to think about. We may have to.
You can save that one.
We may have to save James's car.
We could do a
James's
year-ending show.
Yeah, I haven't given much time to think about high points for the year. Ryan Morris, cool dad car options. Young kid. I live in a city, so no monster trucks. Something I can throw skis on the roof and a kid in the back. Audi S3, BMW M2, CT4V 997. Well, those are all good choices. I mean, it's I'm guessing based on that his budget is like $75,000.
Well, it also depends on what does your kid think is cool. Like,
I think
does
this
your
is a
kid think
newborn.
speed?
This kid doesn't think.
Oh.
This is a ball of breathing jelly.
Oh, okay.
This is the new.
I thought, because some kids are like, oh, that looks, Jason Torchinsky's
Yeah.
kid might not be into an S3, but he'd be into a mail truck. No offense, Jason. I don't know if I'm wrong.
I mean, I wouldn't want to deal with two-door car and a child seat in the back. That
No.
seems like it sucks.
Imagine lifting an ever-growing bowling ball into the back seat all the time.
A 911 is great when that kid can crawl back there on his own and doesn't need the car seat. So I would want something with something with 4 doors.
I'd go S3.
Yeah.
Good car.
S3, or you could do like a Mercedes GLA 45, little crossover-y.
True. Thing's a rocket.
Yeah. GR Corolla, for sure, would be great.
I was gonna say Golf R, but I remembered the button, so I don't want to say Golf R.
Oh, well, no rear window switches, right?
No, that was the
that's
ID4.
the ID4, yeah.
But
yeah.
you just have no volume control or HVAC control.
Yeah. I mean, I love the S3. I thought the S3 was a great car for every day. Throw some winter tires on it, go anywhere in the snow. You could also do like an A4 all-road. They're cool. Skiing, you 100% need a separate set of tires. If you want to drive an M2 or CT4V to the mountain, you need like not just all-season tires. You need winter tires. So, and if you live in the city, maybe you don't want to store those tires. Maybe, let's assume. So I would say a 4-door car that's fast and engaging with all-season tires on it for 60 to 65 grand. That's what I'm inferring from this. Mm-hmm. S3, GLA 45 Mercedes, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could get like a 3 Series with X-Drive also if you wanted to. We don't test those very often, but that does exist.
Yeah.
And
what have I just driven recently? I mean, Elantra N or Kona N.
Front-wheel drive with snow tires.
A Kona N could be really fun.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
Kid might laugh at all the exhaust noises.
Yeah, or a slightly used Macan. You get a Macan GTS or turbo used. Those would be nice.
65 with like CPO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack Riley says, "How do each of you define personal success? Are the things that describe success quantifiable, or is success a feeling that I experience?"
Should we put this at the year-end show? Because this is a deep thought one.
We could add that to the year-end show. We'll come back to you, Jack. Tom Rosenbaum, are you pro or anti integrated infotainment systems? Well, it's interesting. The question is because it's a pain in the ass to upgrade to a newer, more modern radio. I feel this because there's a lot of cars that are very cool. Like when cars started becoming very screen dependent, I said to myself, this is going to become a problem because the cars are going to last a while, but the infotainments are going to get old. And a lot of times they find ways. Zach bought for his BMW M3 a full replacement that is like a CarPlay screen, but that looks, if you were to turn the car off and just look at the screen being blank, it looks like it should go there.
Yeah.
Right?
But the downside is you're going aftermarket, and my thing is not 100% reliable. Like
it's not?
It starts up and works the way it should like 90% of the time, but sometimes you plug the phone in and it doesn't boot up. And mine is version 4 of this from this Avon company, but reading on the forums, version 1, 2, 3 were super clunky and problematic.
Yeah.
And so you're dealing with something that was not tested by OEM engineers that needed to be as easy and reliable to use as a fucking doorknob. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the downside. But but it is just the nature of things where what looks brand new and cool right now in 8 years, that screen, that font, all those other things will look really old.
Yeah, and it's a fact that it's cheaper for manufacturers to do a screen that controls everything than it is to make buttons and have a separate radio system. So it's the way of things. I mean, there's almost no brand new cars you can buy today that have a separate audio system from everything else, unless, maybe there's something like real cheap, like the Versa Note or something that's like really, the cheapest car on the road, you might be able to get a separate stereo from other stuff. But most cars, it's integrated one way or the other.
I think maybe a car where the nav screen is an option, like I think like Miatas and things like that, where you can add that pop-up thing, but if you don't do it, it still has a stereo. It's just hard buttons down below, but it's definitely fewer and far between.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, it started to become a problem even before screens. Like, remember when Ford went for switched the Taurus from the 90s Taurus to the early 90s Taurus to the frog-eye Taurus? And then all of a sudden, it wasn't a square DIN radio anymore. It was that, like, big oval.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, how do you... If I want to change the radio, what do I do? So it goes back a long way. You know, and the trade-off is in terms of audio quality, most factory stereos now, especially if you get one of the upgraded stereos, are better than what you would buy from the aftermarket. Not only because the componentry is good, but because they're designed for that car.
Very true.
I mean, I've heard aftermarket stereos that are very expensive and still sound like dog shit.
Yeah.
So,
and I've been in a lot of cars. The Integra is a good example. Like, it wasn't that expensive a car. The stereo was incredible. So you could get in that, and I don't think many people would find shortcomings with that stereo system unless you want enough bass to shake the license plate off. But otherwise, you go, yeah, great, this is done, this is fine.
Yeah. I don't remember if the point of if the context of this person's question was about upgrading the stereo itself, but it's it's much of a pain to upgrade to a newer, more modern radio.
He was just curious, like, are we for it or against it? And I think I'm not against it as long as the stuff keeps working and it's supported by the factory or the dealership or whatever for a long, long time. You know, the joke of like the McLaren F1 still uses that 14.4K modem, and like, do they still have a computer that can run it? That's something I think we'll run into eventually, where dealerships, do they still have a computer that can talk to a car that's 20 years old? I don't know.
Well, we spoke on behalf of one of our clients to Lamborghini dealers, to 3 Lamborghini dealers in the area. None of them will touch a Diablo.
Ooh.
They don't have the computer that can talk to a Diablo.
Right.
There are 2 people in Southern California that do, but neither of them are Lamborghini dealers. And so if a Lamborghini, you know, it's crazy that you could call a Lamborghini dealer and like, nope. But when I had a Hummer, I had an H1 Hummer, and I owned this car the year that Hummer shut down as a business. Or no, excuse me. The year before. It was because there were still dealers. The point of the story was that I called dealers. I called dealers asking them to service my H1 Hummer. And the 3 dealers in the New York area were like, oh, we don't do H1s. I was like, but there's only H1, H2, and H3. Like, that's it. It's not like there's like 100 years worth of cars.
But the first one was
they didn't
kind of bespoke. The second was a Tahoe.
Right,
So,
yeah. No, they said they don't have a diesel guy there. I was like, how? It's like, this is literally your most expensive product.
But how would they not have a Duramax person? Isn't that that's the Chevy diesel?
Mine was pre-Duramax. Mine was the 6.5 turbo diesel pile of shit.
Oh, yeah, but they still have a guy there who knows diesels, maybe.
But they didn't.
All right.
The dealers wouldn't work on it. And I was like, this is fucking crazy. Wasn't
Where'd
supported.
you take it? Like
eventually,
heavy equipment?
Oh, no, yeah. Eventually, just like some fucking guy. Like a guy who did worked on like commercial trucks. And that didn't go well either.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so this one, we can do this one. Joe, this question is from our last show. Zach mentioned that we've learned a lot about lithium mining. Would we mind expanding on that and the details we've learned about general challenges facing EV manufacturing? Yeah, I mean, this goes back to the mobility conference I went to in Germany, and we heard from someone who was in the lithium mining business, and basically what they said was, and I'm paraphrasing, is the lithium and other metals, they're not rare earth metals because lithium is actually quite common, but the materials that are going to go into EV batteries, nobody really gave them the heads up that the regulations are going to push the consumers heavily towards EVs in the way that they are. And it takes a long time to get new lithium mines going. He was talking specifically about lithium, but this could go for other earth metals. And without that kind of ramp up, you run into supply chains. We're seeing it with the semiconductor thing, that too. And what he said was, in order to meet projected demand for EVs, we globally have to open 30 to 35 new lithium mines a year for the next 30 or 35 years. That's a ton of lithium mines. And lithium mines are messy things. They contaminate the water. They very frequently have to be put places that are either tribal lands or indigenous lands or, private lands, places where people don't really want them. And it's like having a coal mine or a whatever mine next to where you live. Nobody really wants that. And so the question then is, what do we have to fuck up and where do we have to fuck it up in order to have cleaner air in our cities by switching to EVs? And people very heavily focus on tailpipe emissions because it's something that is so easily perceptible. Mm-hmm. You could see the smoke, the exhaust coming out of a car. You could smell it. You can die of carbon monoxide poisoning in a closed room where a car is running. Whereas you turn an EV on and you're not going to die in there. So it's something that's digestible for people. EVs equal clean, gas equals dirty. But you need to mine a ton of lithium to get the amount that's you need for cars, individual cars. And when they start showing you visually just how much we're going to need and where we're going to have to get it from and how we're going to have to ship it around. I mean, you think lithium's going to get shipped across the ocean on an electric fucking cargo ship? Hell fucking no, it's not. It's going to be hundreds and thousands and millions of tons of lithium shipped on bunker oil,
right?
Like from place to place to move these to build these very heavy battery packs that then will need to be disposed of at their end of life or recycled or whatever. And so it's not that we know a lot about lithium mining. It's just that the facts that this guy was telling us about the reality of mining was that it is a very messy industry that in order to keep up with the kind of demand the governments are going to try to force people into,
and it's messy. It can provide jobs for local communities and stuff, but something we talked to, I think, Salika about is, well, one, does that community want the mine there? If they say yes, then is their health going to be monitored? Is their water going to be monitored? All these other things. So it's like not just opening the mine there, but operating a mine there in a way that is safe for the people in that community and also the people that may get water from that aquifer or whatever. Yeah. This is one of those examples. And you don't want to
extract the value, the minerals, the literal value from that community, take it somewhere else, and not make sure that community is taken care of. And in a way that's important.
Right. That would be the ideal way to operate things.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of human history is based on extracting. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying we know how companies tend to operate and take something from you that we know is worth $1 million, but we tell you it's worth $1.
Right.
And then we sell it for $1 million. I mean, this is an example of when thing that is the perceived problem of the tailpipe emission. I tell you, the consumer, hey, you can make your tailpipe emission zero. And then that idea spreads to like the mayor or the governor, and they go, by 2035, we want all, the whole crowd driving EV cars because then everyone's tailpipe emissions will be zero. But those folks don't think of like what is the macro force that's needed to make that happen? What is the lithium supply of the globe? Is there enough to convert everyone to EV? They just go, well, there's a good talking point, and boy, it sounds nice in this neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, ideally that would be cool, but how are we going to get that done? It's not just the why, and the idea of it, but like how does this actually get done?
Yeah, it's kind of fucking messy.
Yeah, after learning all that, that's why I am pro plug-in hybrid now, full on.
Yeah,
give me
smaller
30 miles
battery
range,
pack.
That's fine.
Yeah. Let me do my urban driving on EV and my highway driving on gas and have fewer lithium, cells in my car.
Totally.
Yeah. So my next car might be a plug-in hybrid. We will see. But also, like, if you like EVs, if an EV works for you, like, you don't have to be. You're not guilty or innocent as an individual consumer for your choice. You know, buy the car that works for you. We're talking about on a major industrial, governmental, regulatory level over hundreds of thousands or millions of cars. You know, if you don't take what we just said and go, yeah, see, EVs are fucked. You know, fuck that gas. You know, or the other way, and you know, necessarily shame an individual because they buy a gas car instead of an electric car. Like, consumers should be able to buy the car that best meets their needs. You just try not to buy more car than you need in general.
Well, I think it's not our job to set up, you know, the rules or like the parameters of shopping, but like the larger, you know, either governments, companies, they need to look at the reality of the situation. Scientists, of course, and they go, well, here's how much room we have. Here's what we can operate in. These are the parameters, and then we can shop within those, because otherwise we're just going to be, like you said, arguing. Someone's going to go, I want all gas. Someone's going to be like, I want all diesel. I want all EV. And the truth is, there are no absolutisms. Like, you know, none of those people are right in every instance.
Right. But if California says, for instance, that they want to ban the sale of gas cars by 2035, here's what that means for how much lithium we need to replace the market with, as opposed to California saying, here's what we're going to do to give people, not to force people out of their cars, to give people alternatives to cars for certain trips.
Right.
You know, there's this very reactionary thing about people who comment on our posts. I'm not going to be forced out of my car. No one's forcing you out of your car. No one's forcing you to sell your car. No one's making you give up your car. But if they invest in alternatives like trains, like public transportation, like good cycling paths that are safe, like e-bike incentives, stuff like that, some people will take those incentives and will take those options. No one will have to be forced. Those options are just better for some people. And those people who take them will reduce congestion and pollution and whatever for the rest of us. Anyway, that's our show today. Thank you to Salesforce for the sponsored segment. We certainly appreciate that, and I thought it was an interesting discussion. Thanks to all our Patreon members for our questions, and we will be back with the live people in 3 hours, 4 p.m. Pacific, with Freddie Tavares Hernandez talking about Crosstrek 9. And that's the Smoke and Tire Podcast. We'll see you later.